So I got to do something really cool. I got to go to Cheekwood and meet the one and only Laura Dowling. For those of you that don't know Laura, she is the former chief floral designer at the White House. And we have her as our very own this year at Cheekwood Mansion. Laura decorated Cheekwood Mansion in the style that she would have used to decorate the White House. Y'all, I've never seen anything like it. Those Christmas trees were 7 layers deep with beautiful ornaments and different ribbons. I can barely get my kids to decorate our family Christmas tree with the things that they have handmade. I can't imagine the effort that went into Laura decorating Cheekwood Mansion. But y'all have to come along and see because it was a true treat for the eyes. We are at Cheekwood Mansion today with special guest Laura Dowling. So Laura, I'm so excited. We are going to get to tour today and see some of your work and get to know one another.
Well, thank you, Carli. I'm so happy to be talking to you and sharing this moment here at Cheekwood.
So I've had a tiny sneak peek just as we were getting set up, and walking in, my jaw hit the floor. This is beautiful. Tell me about this.
So this whole space in the foyer was inspired by the incredible mantel and the architecture here at Cheekwood. And when I first saw the space a couple of years ago, I thought a very Italianate, rich colors, the gold, the plum, the fuchsia, the amber orange, all the jewel tones would be really festive here. So we worked in levels and layers, just bedecking the tree with the ornaments, the ribbons. If you look closely, there are fruit. And then around the room, to match the putti on the stone fireplace, you'll see little putti ornaments all over, including at the top of the tree.
Wow. And so I was even seeing all of this ribbon is handmade. Is that true?
So it's wonderful ribbon, but handcrafted, and it's a wiring technique to give this kind of movement and dimension. So I would never put just flat ribbon on a tree. I really wanted to have waves and motion, and I think it gives a whole feeling to the tree that is kind of unique.
It feels alive almost. It's really stunning.
So when I came into this room, it has such a warm, inviting feeling to it, you know, as if you could just sit by the fire, crackling fire, the books surrounding. So my inspiration was a hunt country theme, and I thought that would inspire like a traditional red and green and gold color scheme would just be perfect in here. So the 2 trees, one red, one green, and then the topiary is a mix of red and green with accessories. I brought a few things from home. The tree toppers are handmade out of pine cones and pistachio shells. So yeah, I have a few personal things in here as well.
Well, and I imagine you get asked to decorate and speak literally all over the world. So how did we get so lucky as to have you in Nashville this Christmas?
Well, first of all, I love historic houses. I love antiques. I felt the architecture was just incredible, the collection, but almost the personal, intimate size of the space. And I remember thinking then, how fun it would be to decorate. And about a year ago, the CEO, Jane McLeod, had the idea that she would ask me to decorate. And so when she asked, I said yes immediately. I was so honored and really felt like it would be a wonderful project.
Now, your inspiration was the 13 distinct gardens throughout Cheekwood. How did you try to implement that in a Christmas design?
So when I thought of the theme, and I think it's important in thinking through a big theme, whether it's here, you know, a big mansion, or at the White House, that there's an aspirational, inspirational aspect to it. And I thought gifts of the garden, because it's a botanical garden, and there are so many. I mean, each individual garden has its own character. But then to be able to translate that into room by room design. So if you look at the decor, it's a combination of both, literal, the enchanted butterfly garden, and, then kind of things like the winter garden. So each room has a garden theme that then ties into the decor and architecture.
Laura, tell us about this tree. It is magnificent.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, this tree is really the centerpiece, right, of the Cheekwood display, and it's kind of like the Blue Room at the White House. So I don't know how tall it is, maybe 14, 16 feet. I was up high on the ladder. The inspiration was pulled from the colors of the room, and also just thinking of a fanciful bird and butterfly garden. And so the turquoise, the fuchsia, the lime green, all of the patterns and colors, lots of leaves. And if you look closely, you'll see like sequin birds and butterflies, and a little flock of birds right at the very top. So yeah, the inspiration just very playful, lots of color, and I think it might be a surprise for people if they know this room and has beautiful tapestry and antiques, maybe a little bit unexpected with a vivid color.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It immediately made me think of our diplomat of Tennessee, the one and only Dolly Parton, with all of your butterflies all over the place. One thing I love about you as I was reading your books is you are creating things for the most powerful people in the world, but you are not above hot gluing a pipe cleaner to a plastic container to get the picture you want. So I think a lot of us assume you have to have this immense budget or have this grandiose team, but I think you've proven that you can do really elegant things.
Well, thank you. And I'll say one thing about that I think it's about believing in the process of taking the simple elements that are humble and inexpensive, and then having a vision inspired by art or pattern or whatever, nature, and then creating something really beautiful about that.
Laura, I imagine it's impossible to pick a favorite project because they're all your babies, right? But I'm allowed to, and this is my favorite room that is at your Cheekwood installation. Can you tell us a little about the designs?
I loved designing and thinking about this room. At Cheekwood, the space is, just incredible, right? The light and the proportion. And there's always the iconic poinsettia tree that is live. And so this year I thought, well, it would be fun to turn this into a really bright, vivid color, citrus-inspired theme. And so you see the orange tree, the lime tree with lime poinsettias and ferns, and then the lemon tree surrounded by the topiaries. And then these wreaths that are all handcrafted. So that was a huge project this year to cover these 4-foot frames with individual wired ribbons and paper, and then layered with the faux fruit and gold leaves. So this might be coming close to being my favorite too. Just the colors, the space, I think it's really unexpected.
The energy of it.
Energy.
It really feels alive. And as I researched and read your books, that's probably the number one characteristic I see in your work, is that it really feels alive. And is that the French technique that you've spent your life studying?
So it's such an interesting question, because we talk about that as a team and as a designer. How do you get that feeling of things coming to life? And there are some techniques that work. So for example, when designing a tree, starting at the bottom and kind of creating a spiral of ornamentation, the way you add the ribbons and the layers, you definitely want things that float in dimension. So when you're decorating, always start on the inside core and then build out. And that can be with a tree, with a wreath, with anything. So the energy comes from the floating elements at the end. And yes, that's a French technique. They would call the floating butterflies, or the cat's whiskers, the things that kind of are wispy and, seem whimsical.
Growing up, my mom, I had a really great mom, and she threw lots of events and parties. And the one thing she always did herself was flowers. And the one thing she told me before I go to school is, Carli, I'm gonna teach you how to do a smoky eye. You gotta be able to do your own makeup for an event, and you gotta be able to put together a hostess gift out of florals or something for your table. And so I love how you have taken these magnificent approaches, but they're also so approachable.
Well, definitely this is a big scale project, but in my new book I talk about it's possible to take one element. If you don't have time to decorate a whole house, you can put a really fabulous wreath on the door, and that not only is nice for you and the family, it's kind of a form of public art, I think, because everyone in your neighborhood will see the wreath.
Okay, maybe this is my favorite room, Laura. Tell us a little bit about the design in here.
So, I felt like the color scheme for the dining room was pretty easy to create in the palette, because inspired by the beautiful pinks and the blues of the upholstery and the painting. And when you're in the room, you'll see that there are different shades of pink. And so to make it so it wasn't so kind of trite or pink and blue, I wove in some lavender colors, and then you add the sparkle of the gold and the silver, the Christmas palette, to, I hope, create something magical.
It's so beautiful. I really hope everyone comes and sees it. And as we're in our last room we're going to see together today, I really want to take a step back, like you said you do with your art.
Yeah,
you see it
definitely.
up close, and then you take a step back and kind of talk about entrepreneurship and everything you've accomplished. One of my favorite quotes that you wrote was, "I loved working with flowers so much that the challenge of juggling schedules, obligations, with the opportunity to pursue my passion was energizing and motivating rather than draining." And I think that is the heart of an entrepreneur, of somebody that is passionate about what they do. Laura, spending time with you today has truly been a blessing. I think
you, Carli.
you're a perfect marriage. You're a bouquet, if you will, of entrepreneurship, tenacity, grit, and artistry. And so I just have really enjoyed our time together, and I really hope that everyone will come and check out the Cheekwood Mansion and Laura's installment. It's breathtaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carli.
It's wonderful.